Hey, this is Oteil. If you're liking what you're hearing, head on over to patreon.com/comesatimepod and get your bus pass for an extra episode every week.
What's up, folks? Welcome back to another episode of Comes a Time. That's Oteil.
That's Mike. We had a really great one and a funny one today. Adam Deitch and Jesus Coomes from Lettuce. Y'all probably know about Lettuce. They're some of the funkiest boys out there.
Yeah, they are. This was a great one because I was just able to listen and watch, and it was amazing. If you have motion sickness, anyone that's watched this one laying down, you might want to take a Dramamine.
Oh, definitely God, is like almost like visually like it was dosed. You know? Yeah. But it's so cool and very much how it feels to me, like hanging out with them. Just such sweet guys, man.
There was a lot of points where I wanted to ask a question, but I kind of didn't want to, like with the sound for people in Zoom, it's difficult. But that Berkeley thing, man, that Berkeley connection and that Berkeley scene and the jam session and all that, there was so much that I want to know more about. And God, what an unbelievable class. I mean, Berkeley's Berkeley, but you know, that class of musicians that came out of that era, like, holy shit.
There's a lot, man. Because I met all those guys late. Well, I actually met them when they were teenagers, but I didn't know, you know, we played Boston with the ARU, and I think they snuck into the club, or Kofi let them in at sound check or something. Mm-hmm. And they were like, yeah, our friend transcribed Jimmy's solo off one of the records, you know? And so I think Jimmy handed him his guitar and he played it for him. And I think it was Kraz. And but they were like really young, you know? I mean, I was young, but I thought they're really, really young, you know? And so then, you know, that much later, we run into them again, and they're just all killing, you know. But I remember that group, like Krasno and Schmeens, Deitch, Sam Kinninger, Zoidus, you know, that whole, and that and Neil and Al Evans I met around that same time, and they were really young. From
backbone of the scene right there. I mean,
yeah,
really,
actually, Neil and Al Evans the band was called Moon Boot Lovers before Kraz got in it with Peter Prince.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my God, all these young guys are coming up and just gonna put us out of business. This seems to be a theme. Like, you know, I was worried about hip hop if the samplers were gonna put us out of business. Now the young guys are gonna put us out of business. Like, Oteil, just calm down and play.
You're fine, dude.
You're fine, dude. You know, I mean, and they're like, oh man, you guys are our heroes. It's just so.
You're like, I was
crazy.
Scared of you.
You know, but I mean, I was thrilled too, because you know,
of course,
just hearing them, just like wow. And
that era. I mean, it's kind of interesting because it was like, you know, there was a period where you know, Jerry dies, Fish takes a long break, and that 2000 to like 2002, 3, like all these amazing bands started popping up. Bonnaroo pops up, festivals pop up. There was just all this amazing stuff at once that was really incredible. There were weeks at a time where it was like you could see Soul Live one night, Galactic the next night, George Clinton the next night. Like it was just, just everyone was touring and like just hitting the road hard. It was such a great. It was like a golden. I was in my very early 20s, so it was just a blast to see all of that, you know. I was partying hard, but it was hey, if you want to watch a hard party, watch this episode.
This is great. I know, I love it.
You
guys
really
will
cool.
Totally love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you everyone for listening. We're here on Osiris, home to so many great podcasts. Check them out at osirispod.com. Check out all of Lettuce has a new album coming out very soon. And check out everything Lettuce. And if you want to hear more of us, head on over to patreon.com/comesatimepod for bonus episodes and a whole bunch of great curated stuff. Enjoy the episode, and we'll see you next time.
Man, it's good to see you guys.
Yeah, good to see you.
Happy birthday, Adam.
Thank you.
How old are you today?
Old enough.
I think the new generation, it's almost like women, like you're not supposed to ask.
Yeah, I'm 28 in LA, but
In LA.
yeah.
How old are you in space? That's all that matters. How old are you in space?
There's no space-time continuum, so I'm kind of like ageless and timeless in space.
Exactly.
Yeah, I see you're hovering over the metaverse there, Adam. Happy birthday out there, you know?
Thank you, man. Thank you. We're celebrating the Twitter acquisition today.
Bro.
Yeah, it's a big day. It's a big day for the metaverse, I got to tell you.
I love it. Jesus, I think it's the first time I've seen you without a beard ever.
Dude, I saw
like
John Patitucci a couple of days ago.
He what?
John Patitucci came to our show.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
he has no beard. Right, you're trying to go for the Patitucci.
I could do all the small talk, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to do the small talk. I want to tell you, John Patitucci came to our show, and he sat in, and it was awesome.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I had my Fender sitting there, and then I also had the Yamaha John Patitucci model bass sitting there. So I'm sure he was watching from the audience like, well, there's my bass, and I already signed it, so I might as well go play it. And he came up and shredded, and he's just the sweetest person. He was so encouraging, and he said how proud of us he is, and it was just, I just wanted to talk about it. It just made my heart melt, and it's so awesome.
So wait a minute. Let me get this right. You have a 6-string now?
No, but no, it's Fender 4-strings, P basses only. Huh?
Yeah,
So
Jesus
you
has
had
had the Patitucci 6-string since like 1999 or something. And,
Yeah.
and he's been bringing it to the Lettuce gigs and playing it on a few tunes recently. And Patitucci came to the gig and saw his beautiful, shining signature bass sitting there on a stand while Jesus is ripping some funk on the 4-string.
Yeah.
And then they talked, I guess you guys talked at the encore break.
He gave me he came to my house when I was 15 years old. I had been playing bass 6 months. I had only just barely picked up the bass. And John Patitucci, because he's friends with my dad, and I had friends, friends of the church that knew him. And he came to the house and he gave me a bass lesson before I even was a bass player at all. He spent 3 hours with me upstairs. And that's one of the things that made me really want to play music forever, you know?
Okay, so I have to get this story. Your dad and John Patitucci go to the same church?
Yes.
So there's a guy named Roby Duke. Roby Duke's a producer, sampler, like the beginning era of sampling with Eric Persing and Spectrasonics and Roby Duke. Rest in peace. He's my godfather. My godfather's name is Roby Duke. Rest in peace. He's amazing, amazing musician, singer, songwriter. And he was best buddies with John. Growing up, he used to use John, put John on. He said John slept on my couch, when he was a producer. So my dad and Roby Duke are best. And so he said, when I started playing bass, he said, I'll have John come over. He called him Rooch. He said, I'll have Rooch come over and do stuff on bass.
That's his nickname. Oh, I can't wait to use that because he'll never have any idea that I would know that. Yo, Rooch, what's up? That's so...
Yeah. I was just a little kid, really impressionable, just gotten my bass, from the jazz band at school. And Patitucci shows up at my house for dinner and teaches me a lesson. And it was amazing. He spent so much time and was so humble. I noticed that, Oteil, just like you, I'll say this about you. You are the baddest cat. You're one of the best musicians I've ever met. And you're so humble. And I find that across the board, when someone's really, really got it, they're humble. They never, they're always encouraging you, telling you how you can do it too. And I just see that across the board of great cats. If you're really a really bad cat, you never have. You're always loving, kind. Just like you, Oteil, you've encouraged me so much throughout the years. And when I first say I didn't know you, and we saw you with ARU, and we lost our minds. We were little kids, and we just, we lost our how you play O2. We didn't know what to do, and it changed our interpretation of music forever.
Absolutely. And prior to going to Berkeley, after we met, we were 16. The way that we kind of got our stuff together was ARU bootleg, like live shows and Chick Corea Electric Band, like that we were like, I was going, Shmeens was going hard on both, like the ARU shit. Jesus and I were really into the Chick Corea Electric Band, like the Light Years and the records after that. What's our record?
Beneath the Mask.
Yeah, that record's very important to me and Jesus, and like just our friendship and so to have Patitucci there was special.
Yeah, for our fans that don't know, John Patitucci, who's one of my heroes, he teaches at Berkeley now, and he was the bassist when I first saw him with Chick Corea Electric Band, and more recently has done like the latest, greatest, timeless Wayne Shorter stuff. And man, you're so right about Chick. So right about John. Such a humble cat, man.
So humble, right?
I never got to meet Chick, but I've hung out with John a number of times. And it's just, I never forget one time I ran into him in an airport, and he was coming back from tour with Wayne. And, we were talking about upright and six string. I was telling him, I never played upright. And he goes, look at this. And, if I haven't played for a long time, I'll get these blisters on my fingertip. He got this blister on the side because he played upright like this. And the blister was about this long.
Wow.
And it wasn't a blister. It was a huge blister that ripped. And then the whole blister part ripped off. And there was just this raw crater. And I looked at it. It was the angriest, most painful thing I'd ever seen blister wise. Yeah. And I just looked at him. I was like, Beast. You had to play on that, didn't you? And he was like, yeah, for a real long time. Pain you just can't imagine, but we had this super deep conversation, and just like, he's just the absolute coolest. When you meet one of your heroes like that, I saw Electric Band in Virginia Beach when I was maybe 19 or 20. And it was the first time I'd seen him live. And that's the first time I saw a 6-string bass live. I'd seen Anthony Jackson play one. And that was it. I don't know anybody else that even had one or played one that I knew of. And then I saw him playing that Ken Smith, and I was like, man, I'll never be able to afford one of those. And, he just shredded it. I never got to meet him or anything back then, but I was a true fan. So when I did,
what year did you get your 6, Oteil?
1990, like either the end of 90. I think it was the end of 91.
Yeah, sounds about right.
It was right when we cut that first record.
I talked to him about you, though. I told him how killing you were, and what a sweet cat you are, and what good friends we are. And he said, "Yeah, you're killing." He loves your playing. Obviously,
He knows.
Yeah,
he knows.
They've had me on those Berkeley Zooms. Where you're on there, like the heaviest one was probably. Remember when Rocco died?
Yes.
Wow.
And then all these bass players came on, like all of my heroes and more.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
And then it was there was crying and oh man, like Paul Jackson came on before he passed, and he's sitting in his car and he's talking and just going over memories and stuff, and where all the memories, just watching all my heroes have memories about Rocco with each other.
Wow.
Was just so crazy. And then just all of a sudden, on a total left turn, Paul Jackson just burst into tears. Just like full on lost it. And he was like, I'm sorry. I love you guys. I got to go right now. And it was just so heavy. And then afterwards, Steve Bailey group text every bass player that was on that Zoom. So all of a sudden I had all of my heroes' phone numbers in my phone.
That's great
I
when
was
that
just
happens.
oh shit! What?
That's
I got Ron Carter's phone number. I mean, I could just go down the list, dude. And I did because I was like, later I was like, yo, whose number was this? You know,
Start calling.
Whose number was
but they're all so humble. So, you know, when you meet the asshole, I try to remember, hey, maybe they have a drug problem. Maybe something happened where they're just, that's them right now.
Yeah, or they're not great yet.
This is not, this is
I've
is
seen
not
guys
them.
do 180s from being jerks to becoming completely humble and apologizing. So people can always change. Hopefully they do.
Yeah.
You know, like I got like hugged by this dude who like really messed with me at Berkeley. And like, you know, and this was like literally 20 years later. And like, I was just like, wow, that's like, you know, it's proof that people can change and realize that being cool to people and, you know, helping nurture young musicians is the way to do it and not make them feel inferior. And, you know, so yeah, it's great to see that.
Totally agree. It's like encouragement is so uplifting, and one little diss can hurt so bad. Like, fuck, I could start crying about it. Just like one little diss could just take someone from not even being a musician anymore. You know, just like somebody you look up to says something shitty.
Tell them about Vidi, man, Anthony Vidi.
No way.
Well, you know, that's why I didn't go to New York and do the jazz thing, because my teacher was Kofi. He was so nice. Yeah. And I just was like, I don't even play upright. Like, these guys are going to eat me alive.
Sure.
You know, and I don't care. Like, I've had really nice teachers like Kofi. Like, I don't need the asshole experience.
Yeah.
You know? And maybe it would have been good for me.
Shit.
And that even goes back to that. That even goes back to those people that have a concept of success versus fame. You know, like those people that have their own definition of success are the ones that tend to be like, yeah, I don't give a fuck what the big eyeball thinks. Like, I don't care what New York and LA thinks. Like, I'm just gonna be here in my pocket getting great.
Well, sometimes it's not like tough love. Sometimes it's just, you know, there's like a bitterness thing. Like, this is what I went through, so this is what you got to do.
Totally. Yeah, that whole story.
It's called revenge. It's called revenge, and it's not fun.
And I don't even know, because I just sidestepped it all. I was like, I got Kofi, and I don't, you know, I'm not.
Well, you created a movement. You were part of a movement down south, bro. And like, we were up in New York hearing, listening to y'all. You know, y'all created a scene down there with Sipe and everybody, and like, you know, we were on the wave of that. You know, like, when that was happening.
Crazy.
You know?
It's like watching skate. It's like, I compare it to skateboarding or skiing, snow skiing or something. It's like, you don't know it's possible until you see somebody like you do it, until all of a sudden we watched you and Sipe and ARU do it. And we said, oh, it's possible. I didn't know it was possible, but these guys are doing it. So it's possible. So you're like innovating, breaking ground in the sport almost, you know?
You know, one thing I want to ask you about, because I know that Jesus, you've recorded all this like rap stuff with super heavyweight people. So I guess, like, tell me a little bit of the story about you and your brother, because I'm feeling it sounds like it's connected to Roby and all this. I'm not sure. Like, what's the deal?
Basically, studio life is just an amazing, wonderful world, as you know. But like, my dad was in the studio when I was a little kid, so that when I was just a little kid, he would lift me up as a baby to show me all the lights on the board. And it just looks like a spaceship to me. So, you know, we learned etiquette. We learned you don't talk in the studio. You can't make a bunch of noise because they're listening and they're using their ears. So you just learn all this studio etiquette and especially being around Patitucci. I would watch. So Patitucci lived in Long Beach, where I live now, and he drove to LA to do studio sessions. So I just was trying to be like this dude. He was really nice and good man, you know, like not really drugged out, just good to his wife and good to his family, and played the crap out of the bass and just like knew how to be in the right place at the right time. So honestly, I graduated Berkeley when I graduated Berkeley, my brother plays drums. And so Ty, Tycoon, he wanted me to come home. He's like, come home. You did.
Let's just talk about Tycoon for a second.
Home.
Tycoon is like a savant with rhythm, and like his time is unbelievable. And his knowledge of hip hop is like beyond 99% of everyone I've ever heard. And like,
he's really dope.
And he just like got so into producing, which I love his tracks, but like, his drumming is unbelievable, and we're gonna play in New Orleans. So I'm very excited.
Psyched that time that me and Kofi had with you and Ty. Jesus,
I love that day.
I got some great pictures, man. I'm really glad we got to do that. So you ended up like recording. Did Ty get you into the?
Well, Ty got, everything comes from Ty. Everything is all connected to each other. But he said, come home. And I said, I'm not coming home. I'm still learning music out here in Boston. I said, if you get me a touring musician gig, I want to tour. I'm come out here. I want to be a touring musician. So he gets us a touring. So I won't come home. So he's like, figures it out. My brother's a G. So he gets Cy Smith is an amazing singer. She sang backgrounds for Whitney Houston when she was like 15 years old. She had a deal with Disney with Hollywood Records to, a record deal. So she was going to tour and open for Macy Gray. And so Ty got me the touring gig opening for Macy Gray with Cy Smith on a bus, the whole thing, the tour, the professional life that I wanted. So I came home to Cali. I did that. And then we just started going to studio sessions all the time. And I would go to sessions with Ty. And then one day, DJ Quick was in the B room or the A room, and I was in the B room. And Ty went in there and told him my brother's the greatest bass player, da, 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 da.
Did he really do
my
that?
brother's been helping me the whole time. He introduced me to Quick. And I went in there with Quick. And Quick said, oh, Robert Bacon, who's a really bad cat, Robert Bacon. He just went on tour with Raphael Sadiq today. And I need a bass player, guitar player right now. So it literally 10 years later, I worked with Quick 10 years. Every single day I would drive up there and just look for his car. He had this teal Mercedes, this really weird colored Mercedes. And I would look at all the studios. I would literally drive my dad's car up to LA an hour and drive around from studio to studio to see if I could find this teal Mercedes. And then I'd ring the doorbell and tell him, I'm Eric. I'm a bass player named Eric that you met one time. That's how it all started. And there was a lot of nights where I didn't find that teal Mercedes, and I went home empty-handed. Just drove home an hour, wasting gas, just trying to believe, in this project. So, but then after a while, I worked with Quick for a long time. Then I went to Talib Kweli was playing at the House of Blues, and I had played at House of Blues. I'd done a few gigs. And I knew how to sneak backstage. So I snuck backstage, the House of Blues, and I see Kanye West in the hallway. Nobody knows who Kanye West is. He's not an artist. He's a producer. So I walk up to Kanye West and I say, hey, my brother says you make dope beats. My name's Eric. I play bass for DJ Quick. And he goes, I like DJ Quick. Take my phone number. So he gives me, amazing. I put his phone number in my Nokia phone. Just hustle, man. I will never say enough about hustle, believing in yourself, speaking highly of yourself, especially when you don't believe it. When you're beating yourself up on the inside, tell that person in front of you you're the greatest of all time because they might believe it and give you a chance anyway. I told Kanye West, my brother says you make dope beats, and the rest is history. He said, call me on Monday. I called him Monday, and I went up there and rocked on College Dropout. I rocked on All Falls Down and the first song on the album called Drug Dealing. And it was like a really cool. The thing was, he had another musician in there to vet me to make sure I wasn't wasting his time. So there was like an older musician cat in there that I played for first. He knew all about Chick Corea. He knew all about ARU, of Fusion. He knew about every kind of music. So he checked me out to make sure I was cool. And he was like,
this guy knew about ARU?
Yeah. He knew about everything. He knew about Chick Corea. He knew everything. Yeah. So
holy shit. That's the other thing I tell young people. I was like, you never know who's watching you.
Yeah.
I mean, back then, ARU, we never played any big places. We were playing to like Yeah. I mean, we did Horde
But
Tour and
people
stuff
knew.
like that, but we were on when nobody was
We
there
knew.
at like 4:30 in the afternoon. But when I got the Allman Brothers gig, I said, "Why did you call me?" And they said, "Well, we just kept hearing about you from all these different people." And I was just playing every shitty college bar in the country.
But y'all had records out,
Just
though.
everything.
And promoters
man.
talk.
And you had records.
And the world is small, you know?
Yeah.
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 I told Chris Laughlin told Patitucci about how all the gospel cats like Hezekiah and all these heavy gospel bass players were checking him out. And he was like, I didn't know anybody was listening. You know, it's like that's a real important notion, is that sometimes people are listening and you don't think they are. You know,
And you don't think they are. You just
band
don't
and
know.
you're playing your bass, just keep playing it, because you know what? God is listening. And then other people are too. Like somebody's listening, man.
Yeah,
It's
for
not,
sure.
your music does not fall on deaf ears ever, because the universe is gigantic. And our sound waves that we create here, they never end. They go on forever, right? Eternally.
Absolutely. The words that we speak, I'm trying to check that, because those vibrations, they go out and they ripple a long way too. Even if nobody hears them, they're heard and felt. Yeah, you know, like it really makes me check being judgmental. But can you
so
get,
cool.
before we move on from this, because I really do want to get to Lettuce and the formation of all that, can you give people just a smattering of some of the hip hop legends you've recorded with?
Yeah, Kanye West on College Dropout, and I'd say he's a very humble person. He's not an egomaniac like everybody says. Snoop Dogg's super cool. He just wants to smoke weed. He's really nice and he's funky. And Snoop Dogg's just down to do whatever. Like, he's down to hear your musical idea and do it. Like, he's like, these people are not egomaniacs. Snoop is so humble. So Snoop, Kanye, Dr. Dre's a really good friend, extremely encouraging person, a very amazing person. Dr. Dre is very powerful. It goes on and on. Ludacris, Mariah Carey.
Lil Wayne,
I mean, it literally goes.
Lil Wayne, Eminem. You know,
Thank you.
I found out about
Lil
that. I
Wayne,
was like,
yeah.
wait a minute. Him and Ty have this whole other thing I didn't even know about. I was like, oh my goodness, man.
he had to, like, you know, to come out with Lettuce was like leaving that scene. So like he kind of gave that up, which was getting more and more fruitful for him. And he was like, yeah, let's be a band and let's do this. You know, we're like, yes, Jesus wants to, you know. So it was like, you know, it's like he always had the choice to either do that or come out and do the band. And now he's kind of found like a middle ground, which is great.
Yeah.
But, you know, you're still doing dope stuff out there, you know.
Do
So,
both.
and the band is popping.
I mean,
So,
it's just like my destiny was always Lettuce, you know, like I can bring, like, realistically, these guys trained me so hard. It's so, like, I was in a hip hop group with Deitch. So we were in Lettuce, and it was literally the exact same band pretty much, with a couple of different members, but we had one band called The Formula and one band called Lettuce. So we would do live hip hop, and we were such hip hop, we were such hip hop fanatics, and we're so young that we didn't have all this like, oh, that's not music. You know, we weren't like, oh, that's not music. We're just like, how do you play it?
It was more
to
than
figure
that.
out how
It
to
was
play
like-
it and make it sound right, you know?
Yeah, it was like, this is our musical identity. Like, this is what
Yeah.
makes us
We're
different
not
from
rock and
every
roll
other
heavy
music.
metal guys. We're hip hop
Yeah.
guys. Like,
no
we
disrespect
like
rock and
funk.
roll or any other
At
style.
all.
It's like, we were just saying that, like, hip hop is what, by dissecting the music of it and understanding it in a deeper way, it did kind of change the way we played, you know, completely.
Yeah.
It
So
really
you guys,
did.
how old were you when you had Formula? How did you guys meet initially?
Yeah.
Goes
I
way
mean-
back, huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. We met when
We
we were
were
16.
in 92. 1992.
Lil John Roberts.
Yeah.
Lil John Roberts and Chris Laughlin were doing a jam session, and they were just
Yeah.
jamming
way.
during the day in one of the ensemble rooms, and there was a sign on in the hallway that said "Jam Session this way" with an arrow.
Yeah.
And
I follow that song.
and me and Jesus did not know each other, and we just both saw the sign and went into this room, and I sat next to this dude who, you had little twist braids in your hair or something like that, and looked like a, you know,
Yeah,
some surfer shit. And I sat next to you, and we were just like, we couldn't believe the level of funk that was in front of our faces. Like, hearing Little John at any point in his career is mind blowing, but especially when he was 23, 24 years old, and just completely, you know, I've never heard a drummer to this day that could do what he does. And like, I know Oteil grew up with him.
Well, I didn't, because the crazy thing is in a way,
he considers you family. He always talks about
I'm thinking, you know, I was grown then, but I was like 24 or 25. I was still kind of a kid. But you're absolutely blowing my mind, because I did not know that. You know, Little John played on my last record. And
as he should.
Yeah, Little John brought me and Deitch together, 100%.
This is blowing my mind. I'm going to see Little John day after tomorrow. He's coming to our gig, and I'm going to try to get him to sit in on one of the tunes that we did on my record in Atlanta. Okay, I was thinking about this today. Mike, I told you something shifted today, didn't I? I told you something shifted yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay,
so I was thinking about,
as a birthday present, I want you to tell me when that gig with Lil Jon is and where it is, and I might just fly out.
It's Thursday, Atlanta Sweetwater 420 Festival. I think we're playing at, I got to get the time, but it's early afternoon.
Okay, cool.
So I'm living in Birmingham.
That's something I would go. I would sell veggie burritos out front, and
I'll meet you there, man.
You know?
Man, the web of this, it's absolutely insane. So I was living in Birmingham, Alabama. I'm really young, man. This is like, I'm probably 25 or 6. I was about to do The Peacemaker, so I must have been a little bit older. Maybe I was 28. Anyway, I was looking for a different drummer. I wanted somebody that really knew jazz, but also knew funk. So I was like, I want that funk, and I want the go-go from DC, but I also want Elvin.
Yeah.
Right? And my ex-wife goes out to see Eric Essex.
Yeah.
Cat that's very well known in Birmingham, Alabama. And he had Little John on drums. And I got home from ARU tour. She was like, I think I found that drummer that what you said you're looking for.
Yeah,
you know?
She was right.
And I was like, okay, so he came to Birmingham. I think he might have been still living in Philly, or was doubling time in Atlanta, and played. And I saw that same little, and my face was like this. I was like, oh my God. He actually played with the ARU for a while.
Wow, that's what I haven't heard yet, and I really want to hear that.
Ithaca, New York. It's recorded. Ithaca.
I'm going to find it.
What happened with this site? I don't know. Maybe he broke his foot or something.
Wow.
And he came out. So then, you know, later on, I ended up we just stayed boys for years. So to hear that you guys met because of him, like, for fans that don't know, Little John has played with everybody. He did this last tour. He did
on Summertime. Jeff, DJ Jazzy Jeff from Fresh Prince. Summertime is a classic hit. He played on Janet Jackson Velvet Rope tour.
Wow.
I mean, but
the last tour he did was Janet Jackson or Stevie Wonder to Janet Jackson back to back. I was like, Lil John, you just got magic on you. Damn.
Yeah. That's how. And Prince.
I heard a lot.
There's videos of Prince just crushing with Prince. You know, like.
Yeah. Hey, Deitch.
Yo.
Mark Simmons called me this morning.
Me too.
Nice, cool. He said to say, man, I love Mark Simmons, man. He brought us together too. We were playing together, and he just said, hey, you guys have something special. You need to stay together. And we both just were like, okay, yeah, we know. But, that helped. It helps a lot. Like what I was saying early on is that encouragement really does go a long way, and discouragement hurts really bad. So encourage your artist friends, even if you're just
encourage each other. It's football.
Adam, I remember seeing you one of the first real I mean, that Schofield album that you were on was just like, God damn, it was one of the most incredible things, dude. You were in seeing you live. Like, I was just like, I can't believe that this is one person. And then I just stood there watching you from the side of the stage at Toad's Place in New Haven. And it was a Saturday night early, and you fucking tore it up. And Schofield's one of my just all-time favorite musicians of all time. And to see you guys together, man, that was a trip. That was a lot of fun. And that was a great era. That was like a golden era for our scene. That's like when the hip-hop and everything kind of started to like really, you know, melt together.
I definitely felt weird, like not doing Lettuce during that time. Like I was like, all the other bands were building their worlds. All the guys that we're doing shows with, or whatever, they were building their thing, and here I am like building Schofield. Like working with Schofield was a legend. I was like fortunate to do it, but there was also like this, like, oh man, like I miss my boys too. It was, and me and Sco met because Kraz had him sit in with Lettuce. Wow. So if he didn't hear me playing with those guys, maybe he wouldn't have dug me. So it's like, it's just crazy how it all worked out. And I'm happy that Lettuce, is where it's at now. And, I feel like I have to work twice as hard to make up for that lost time with like Schofield and Average White Band. Like I got to write more. I got to do more. I got to like just keep pushing, and like, cause I just love it so much, and.
Right. Because I'm thinking the same thing. And the whole time working with Dr. Dre, which most people just want to do that only, I'm thinking, man, I miss my boys. I miss Lettuce.
Straight up.
But you guys did make up for it. You're playing Newport Jazz Festival. You got to tell me about Bootsy, please.
We've been dying to get him on.
Bootsy's all of a sudden now. Bootsy's our friend. He's so sweet, and once again, super humble, and an amazing legend. But like just he breaks the ice super quick, where you don't feel all that. You just, man. What
his heart's full of love. We walk in, they had sandwiches for us, they had food, and he had his own brand of wine that he brought out for us. And with
they gave us all star glass.
Yeah, so it was a legendary day for us. Like we consider him like the untouchables. Like Bootsy, Herbie, like those kind of guys that are just like, wow, from another planet.
Yeah. I call it the age of heroes.
Yeah.
The Mount Olympus,
Mount Olympus, X-Men, like, the ones, the
pyramid
the ones
builders.
that bring God's notes to earth.
But even like getting to play with the guy, like you're spending time with Dre, you're spending time with Schofield, and then you get back together with your boys and you sit down and play, and it's like, look what I learned. Look what I picked up. Look what so you're bringing so much more back to the boys and back to the crew. What's up, everybody? This is Mike, and today's show is sponsored by Sunset Lake CBD, a Vermont hemp farm crafting affordable CBD products designed to help with stress and sleep without breaking the bank.
Sunset Lake CBD is a majority employee-owned hemp farm located just outside of one of our favorite places, Burlington, Vermont. For years, Sunset Lake was a dairy farm producing milk for Ben & Jerry's ice cream. We had them on the podcast. In 2019, they diversified and started growing hemp for CBD.
And Sunset Lake CBD crafts products with hemp grown on their family farm and ships them directly to the customer, cutting out all the cost associated with getting on the shelves at stores. They have CBD products for every occasion and offer tinctures, salves, edibles, coffee, smokables, and even for that anxious dog of yours, they have pet products.
Ooh, I need to get some for my dog that's barking all the time. But I'll tell you this, I use these. The Sour Bears.
So good.
They are CBD gummies. I literally, no joke, I take these every night. They help me sleep. And it's almost bedtime.
Yep. And I still, as said it before, I'll say it again. You go to a long show, you come home, my 42-year-old ankles are not what they used to be. And I rub that salve all over them and put them up, enjoy a nice cocktail, and just let it ooze right into those sore bones. And you know what, folks? All you Comes a Time fans, if you check them out at sunsetlakecbd.com and use promo code TIME, T-I-M-E, you'll get 20% off all products. That's sunsetlakecbd.com. Use promo code TIME, 20% off all products. Sunset Lake CBD, farmer-owned, Vermont-grown. Thank you.
Get you some.
Every time, like, even we'll have like 10 days off in a second here, and we'll all go back to our respective places and bring something from life, more life stuff, but music stuff too, but just like experience and what did you go through? I go through like emotionally and stuff like that.
Absolutely. One specific thing, I didn't mean to cut you off. You done? Yeah, I was just saying one specific thing I borrowed from Schofield was his use of duos during the, like, when you're playing and jamming and improvising and cutting it down to duos of any sort, and then bringing the band back in after like 32 bars, and like, having that different color, and like we do that sometimes, and it's like that's part of like the Schofield experience. Like he did that every night, and we do drums and guitar and just beast out, and then the band would come back in, and the crowd would roar, and it's like this thing, So it's like,
because when we're in Lettuce, we're on stage in Lettuce, Deitch can talk to us. If you don't know, Deitch, we use it as a very minimalistic. We don't talk very much to each other, but every once in a while, Deitch will say, me and Zoit, or Zoit and I, or Jesus and Zoitis, or Nigel and Schmeens. And he'll just say that in the mic. We all cut out, and it's just magic every time. And you come back in, just gigantic. It's really...
He's the quarterback sitting in the pocket calling audibles. It's the best, man.
Well, it's like Lee Scratch Perry, like a dub, like dub reggae. They would take different tracks out, and then focus on just the horns for a second. Hit the delay. So I'm thinking like that, like a mixing board. The band's a mixing board, and like these two are on fire right now. I just want to hear these two right now. Like.
You're cosmically just pulling the up and down, bringing it up,
just
bringing
like
it down.
Feels like a mix, and like and everyone knows, everyone's thinking that too. They're like, oh man, it'd be great with just like a bass and sax breakdown for like 32 bars. Like they know that that's gonna work, and they'll make it work even if they don't realize it, because like once the drums drop out, and these guys can really show their rhythmic, how funky they are without drums. Like they don't need me to be funky.
Did you grow up going to hip hop shows, Adam?
Definitely. I mean, I had started getting tapes, hip hop tapes, when I was like 8, 9, 10 years old. I started taping the radio after that.
Yeah.
And then it was like, I saw KRS, I saw Rakim, I saw Eminem. Me and Jesus saw Eminem when he was just coming out, like early.
He had brown hair. He had brown hair back then, dude. He didn't have blonde hair yet. He wasn't even to Dr. Dre yet. We saw him on that tour. That was so crazy. And he came right up to us. We found him. Somehow we found him in the audience, dude. You remember that?
Yeah.
Goes, where's the drugs at? Where's the real drugs at? He's over now, thank God. We're like, we got weed. No, and we're like, okay, dude.
Okay, all right.
But yeah,
forever. He was definitely out there. Like, the shows, like, within reason, because obviously the early days of hip hop, it was like, you can get got. So you got to be careful with the shows, but. Definitely, like the Wetlands was a great place to see hip hop. Like, Pete Shapiro's club was, I saw the Roots there early. Like a lot of like Slick Rick would be there, and different kinds of shows.
5 and stuff like that.
All that.
That's one thing. Me and Deitch just went and saw Ghostface Killah and Wiz Khalifa 2 days ago. We love it. We go to pop concerts right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wiz Khalifa, big shout outs to Wiz Khalifa and Wiz Khalifa's band.
Wiz Khalifa's band,
from
yeah.
Mike Nelson, you're a bad cat, man.
Oh.
And just their band was so dope, and they were so nice to us. Wiz Khalifa's band is fire, and the DJ is awesome.
And shout out to the Backyard Band that played before them. And they just came out and played the real super go-go like that. That is just like the heart of the city. And the two different styles. There's the bounce beat and the traditional beat. And they did both. They kind of represented for like the bounce beat, things. It's a whole different beat, So
it was cranking.
It was cranking. Like, it was
cranking.
Oh my God, I love you guys' energy so much. So did you meet Schmeens, Zoid, Nigel, Benny, everybody at the same time, or how did that come about? Does it happen in layers?
I met Crab at room. Berkeley. So I remember I met Deitch, and Deitch had took me to Kraz's room to meet Kraz, just for a pop in real quick. And I remember when I walked in his dorm room, he was playing his Strat, but he was slapping it like it was a bass, and he was slapping it. It was like a 4-string bass. Who is this country funky kid? Is funky right now. So I'm not sure how everybody all met, but I remember Deitch taking me to Kraz's crib, and I remember Schmeens coming down to we were in 270 Commonwealth going to jam, and me, Kraz, Deitch, Zoidis, Schmeens. Yeah, we were all in there, man. I don't know. I remember us all being in there real.
Yeah, we just started rolling around like a gang, and we started playing, and it was just like E-funk, for 3 hours, and.
So I got it. When did you meet Nigel?
Nigel was like later, like he's living in Maine, and Zoidis keeps hitting us like every 3 months, like, there's this dude Nigel Hall. He lives here, and he's amazing, and like I'm telling you, he's incredible. And we're like, yeah, it's okay, Zoid, yeah, all right, man,
He knows we don't believe.
Yeah, we didn't believe him for some reason, It was like, and then like another year went by, and he's like, you guys, there's this guy. Nigel, and finally, Nigel came to Brooklyn, and I was like off tour finally, and we could hang out, and he came to Brooklyn. It was me, him, and Crash hanging out, and we were like instant best friends, and he explained that he had listened to Lettuce since he was a little kid with his mom, and it's part of his DNA, like our band and what we did was a part of his life, growing up in DC, and part of his memories with his mother.
His mother passed away, and that she and he listened to it together. So I was like, I can't. There's no arguing that. That's that.
Yeah, it's part of his bond. It's part of his life, and when he's, when we were blessed to hear him and just be like, oh my God, this guy can play like this, and sing like that. It's just such a rare situation to have someone that can really play keys and sing like that.
I got to say something about Mike Clark though, because there's just something about that Herbie quartet that brings us all together, including you too. Like it brings us. There's something about that Herbie quartet that just brings us all together. Like hear Deitch doing those Mike Clark licks and then playing pocket like that. And then you hear Nigel jump in on the roads and pocket out with them. It's just like, it makes your heart feel good. It makes your whole body feel good. And you feel that.
Yeah, so we like the same eras of funk. We all like East Bay funk. We all like Herbie funk.
Yep.
We all love and respect James Funk, JB Funk.
Yes.
P Funk, Parliament Funk.
Yep.
There's different kinds of funk. There's
go.
I heard most of my funk after pop. So the first time I ever heard, We Want Bootsy was We Want Easy on Easy Does It on Easy E's record.
Interesting.
It's like what brought me into a lot of it. You realize you heard a lot of records from different places. Rakim, the first place I ever heard Schoolboy Crush by far was Rakim. You know what I mean?
I learned
Yeah,
so
definitely.
much about music through hip hop, through the Beastie Boys, through, I mean,
Totally.
just so much. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
And see,
Definitely.
man, but, you know, it's funny because the era that I'm from, you know, I'm almost 60. So when it first came out, I felt very threatened by the sample. I was like, oh my God, they're just going to sample us and not hire us. Or sample my heroes and not even give a shit about listening to me to sample me, because you already got, you know, Zig and George Porter, and you got all the greats to be sampled already, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to make a living. I chose the wrong career. You know? But I didn't realize that it was like these guys were like archivists, and a lot of people were getting turned on to
Yeah.
cool stuff. It happened with me with like Follow for Now when I was in Atlanta in my early 20s. You guys know David Ryan Harris?
Yes.
He plays with incredible singer and songwriter. He lived in Atlanta and had a band called Follow for Now. And his drummer, Enrique, super young, you know, I was trying to mentor him a little bit, and I was teaching him about Zig. I mean, he learned to playing air drums. He couldn't afford a kit. And when he finally got a kit, he could already play.
Whoa.
That's what kind of a Jedi
Holy
this kid
shit.
is. Yeah, he was one of our favorite drummers.
Man.
So I was telling him about Zig Modesti from the Meters. And he said, I don't know him. And so he's playing. So I'm at his little apartment, and some hip hop thing comes on, and it's Zig sampled. I was like, that's Zig. I said, let me play you
Wild.
the actual song that comes from, and so you can hear the meters and the whole. So, you know, he was like, oh yeah. So he was already playing Zig,
Yeah.
but he didn't know, and I could hear it.
Hip hop
You
was
know?
like hip hop's like a map to a scavenger hunt sometimes. Like where it's like you
Yeah.
hear a beat, you hear like Johnny Royale, a Beasties tune starts with this and I was like, that riff's been in my head forever, and I never knew it was the song Sharon by David Bromberg, and I was just like, years later I heard the riff, and I'm like, that's it, that's been in here for 2 decades, but I never knew what it was, and then I found it, and it's like, great, I could check that off, you know, and it's just it gives you like an encyclopedia of snippets, very ahead of its, you know, hip hop was almost kind of like well ahead of its time with this kind of 1 minute 60-second culture brain that we have
it's like
now,
the
that like,
TikTok.
yeah, hip hop
Right.
was kind of that, like, here's a piece of this, here's a piece of that, if you want to find it, go to your record store, talk to the guy who works there, and you know, what was this sample in that, and it was pretty neat, man. It was like a,
And now we have whosampled.com, which will tell you anything you want to know about what
Really?
who sampled, you know, that what's that thing on that LL Cool J, or who sampled Mavis Staples, and they'll give you every rap record that sampled Mavis, or every rap record that sampled Herbie, or, you know, like,
Good. So all these guys can go get paid.
exactly.
Mavis could be like, excuse me. Because I know some of them don't pay. Some of them do. I think Leo Nocitelli's getting taken care of.
You know,
But-
you gotta, you know.
Gotta go get it. But
Yeah,
you know,
go get
y'all really helped me with Dilla, because finally, you know, I was studying bluegrass while hip hop was coming with the Colonel. You know, I was in a completely different thing, you know, going back to like Charlie Christian and old Delta blues and bluegrass and country. But recently, probably I would say in the last, I don't know, 7-8 years or whatever, it was Dilla's birthday would roll around, and all my friends and their feeds would just get loaded up with Dilla. So I went onto YouTube and I found Dilla without all but it was instrumental. Because I don't want to hear about bitches and hoes and all that stuff.
Oh no, instrumental. He has days and weeks and months of instrumentals. Yeah.
Yeah. So I listened to all this stuff, and then I got it. I was like, oh, he's like Picasso. He's putting the eyeball here and turning the mouth this way. And then people are actually like trying to play like that, the way he, and then I started doing more just like research about him. And I realized, oh, these guys know so much music because they're just bin divers. They just dive record bins. They know more of music than I do. You know, because they're that voracious.
Took a different route. maybe.
They're archivists, really.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, of the culture. I was like, wow.
I've been preaching De La Soul to Oteil for a while now. I think you would love them because it's just such heartfelt lyrics, and it's just.
Well, I will say Roots was the one group that I really like, where I actually got the record, played it, the Illadelph Half-Life, and just from being young, because I remember when Public Enemy came out at first, and there's just something about Chuck D and his voice, but also the way they put it together that I really.
I mean, that's
like,
the Shockley brothers.
It.
Shout out to Hank and Keith Shockley. You know. Good,
yeah, I feel that. I always have.
You know, genius producers who mixed multiple layers of samples together in ways that were sometimes tonal, sometimes not. You know, introducing
just rhythmic.
Yeah, it's a polytonal kind of way of looking at it, because you start hearing the sax that in that key, even though the bass line's in C, and you're hearing the sax in F sharp, and it's like, this is out, you know, but it's in your head as this polytonal piece, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what me and Jesus respected the most, was like how it didn't really agree with modern harmony. And here we are in Berkeley going through like harmony class, and we're like kind of like into like some other thing at that time, you know?
And I'm glad you point that out, because I think that might have been a barrier for me too. You know, that was before I was really into Sun Ra and listening to things just as the polytonal harmony.
Don't forget that people talk monstrous shit. You know what I mean? They always talk shit. So then there's people talking shit, and then you go, oh, well, they must be right. This is not, you know, like people talk. When the hip hop came out, people talked a bunch of crap. You know, K-rap. That's not music. That's crap. You know, and that's not real. Like, that's not. Like, people are always going to do that about weird art that's new dope art that's you just can't handle it. And you go, I don't like it. You know, no, that's not what you actually mean. What you mean is you feel something and you can't figure out what you feel. You know?
I never talked crap about it, but I definitely didn't really get it.
People did,
because my filters. It took Colonel Bruce to destroy those filters of expectation. Sure. You know, I was just like an instrumentalist, basically. Yeah. So there was so much that I was like, that's why I didn't really. The Grateful Dead, I was just like, you know, it wasn't Wayne and Elvin.
Yeah,
and, you know,
Weather Report. And all that.
Mike Clark and Herbie and Paul you know, it was just a different thing. My thing was just narrow.
Well, you know, I'm 46 today, you know, and the one thing I am learning is that you become more open-minded musically as you get older. You know, and you find things that your 20-year-old self wasn't trying to hear. And that's okay, you know, and I'm checking out music that's like some whole other thing, you know, and and that's part of, you know, growing as a human being and growing your sonic spectrums of what you listen to and what you let into your cellular structure and your blood and your vibe. So, you know, I just wanted to interject with that.
No, I think it's very true. And I find that a lot of times what gets me into new music is the people's human story aside from the music. So that's how I'm approaching rap and hip hop now. Like, you know, Colonel Bruce helped me understand the folk musics, but the very old ones, I have an old orientation. I just get it from my parents, I guess. Like Herbie and all that was new. That was the new shit, right. You know? But now I'm like, well, hip hop and rap is just the folk music of the hood. I grew up there in the hood in Southeast Washington, right where Nigel's from, right?
Yeah, same block.
A little bit of that. The Prophet has no honor in his hometown. I was like, oh man, that's just some dudes around the way, you know? But I'm like, oh, this is the folk music. Just listen to it. That's the story. That's its story. It's no different from any of the other folk musics that I really love. I appreciate them all for their story. And I know that story. I grew up in that story, you know? Like, I was just the nerd in that story.
That's okay.
The nerd listening to Holdsworth, and you know, you know, like, and Kofi, we were like, you know, that was our jam. We were like, hey, you know, the
Can you
hood has
recommend
all-
one good Alan Holdsworth record for us to go and
Oh
check
my
in?
God. Just go to the bin
Where should we
and
start?
close
Where
your
should we
eyes. Start the beginning at IOU. The first Holdsworth record I heard was not a Holdsworth record. It was a band called UK, which was Bill Bruford
Oh yeah.
Okay.
and
Are you
Holdsworth.
writing this down, Jesus? I need to remember this record.
Man.
UK, and there's a tune called "In the Dead of Night,"
Ooh.
and Kofi was like, "O'Teal, you have to hear this." Guitar player, right? So he plays me this record, and I'm trying to figure out which one. Where I'm like, "Where's the guitar?" Like, I think I hear a violin, but I was like, "Well, that's got to be the guitar," but I never heard a guitar do that. Like, how is he doing that? You know, and then much later, you know, Holdsworth did some Bruford records, and then he did some Tony Williams Lifetime, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But then he put out his first solo record, IOU. Woo!
Wow.
Woo! Dude, he
Yeah, I
just
know
like the whole guitar world
Yes.
just went. It was like a tsunami came through it.
Interesting.
And get IOU, man. And then
Okay.
all of them, Velvet Darkness, you know, get all the records, man. They're
Hey, man.
road
It's my birthday.
games.
I think I'm ready for some melodies. Yeah.
Your brain will just start coming out your ears, man, like melted wax. It's so.
Yeah.
And he just thought he was so critical of himself. He would drink himself into a near stupor before every gig.
No.
He would go and have like 20 Coors Lights.
No way. Alan Holdsworth?
So
If your kids
insecure
listening,
about his,
don't do
I'm
that.
just like,
Wow.
yeah. So that's why I always am telling my students and stuff, do it afraid. Do it afraid. Like you just.
Yeah, stage fright is real. And me and Jesus we were just talking about how calm we are going on to stage these days and how good that feels to not have all these nerves and feeling good on song one, downbeat one, like feeling relaxed. Like you've been there forever. I feel like every time I've seen you,
True.
you emanate this like relaxed vibe. We're just trying to
That's not at all it. I'm the exact opposite. I wish people could enter my body about 2 hours before I have to play.
Jitters everywhere, huh?
Or even like, let's say 30 minutes before I have to play. And they would be like, oh my God, this is how you feel before you go on. When I had the same band all the time, like the Peacemakers, I had that feeling. And that's probably, you guys have been together so long that it's just like that pair of jeans that you've had since freaking high school, if you can still fit into it, you know. But
inside our bodies, because they're so complex, is that there's probably our bodies are blasting off these chemicals that we need to be in front of that many people and keep our together. So before you're on stage, you're getting blasted with these chemicals inside your body. It's like drugs, you know, and you're getting all these hormones and this testosterone, adrenaline that you need to play. But you're not on stage yet, so you're going, I feel nervous.
Like a volcano is about to go.
You know? Yeah.
If you change the word nervous to excited, I like to tell young musicians, just change the word what you think you're feeling to excited. You know, I'm excited to play the show. I'm getting adrenaline to play the show. I'm not nervous. I'm excited, you know?
Exactly. You know, Greg Allman, it never went away. And I don't think I've ever told this story in the podcast, but it's okay to tell. And I think it's good for people to know, for young musicians to know. Well, one time, about a weekend, everybody's doing laundry. You know, I'm going to the laundry room in the hotel, and Stacy Fountain, who was Greg's girlfriend at the time, was dragging this the biggest laundry bag I've ever seen. It was like 4 laundry bags in one. And I was like, damn, I know there's 2 of y'all. Y'all got that much laundry in a week. She goes, well, you know how much Greg sweats. You know, he's always got those nerves before he plays. So
wow.
he apparently would pretty much sweat through one shirt from the hotel to the gig,
Wow.
change, do another shirt like on stage, might sweat through that one, change at the break, sweat through that one, and then do another one on the bus.
3 shirts a night.
Or 4.
Yo.
Or 4.
Yeah. For
And
anyone that's not a musician.
That's
You would he's so smart. He's so calm. You would just never know that.
the coolest, the coyote, like the coolest, like, you know. But and he told me, he said, man, it never went away. And because I asked him about it, I was like, I'm so sick of this. I wonder if it'll ever go. Like, I'm in my early 30s at this point. And he said, it never went away, man. But I wonder if it did, I might have a terrible show, or like I just maybe it's supposed to be. Like, he accepted it on that level. Like what you're saying, Jesus, like, hey, I'm excited. I'm not nervous. Like, this is part of it. And it does. It's definitely fuel. And when I'm not nervous anymore and I'm shifted to joy, then that's when my smile, you know, so.
I dance around stage. I love it so much.
Jesus has this saying before we go on stage. If I'm nervous, he's like, bro, all we got to do is play bass and drums, bro. Me and you, bass and drums. And if we're locked, the show is going to be locked. And I always it's in the back of my head before we go on stage every time. Like, it's me and you, homie. Like, we're going to go in there. We're going to make it happen, you know, and let these cats build and be creative and improvise on top of what we're doing, you know?
Yeah, as long as you've been playing together, like, locked is the word.
Yeah, that's
describe it. You guys are so. My sister is super into you guys, man. Like, it's great. Leilani and Adaro too, man. The Burbridges rock lettuce, man.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Well, you gotta go enjoy your birthday, man.
Yeah, I'm my couch. I'm actually out in space, but when I get back home, I'm gonna be on my couch and I'm gonna probably watch a little NBA action and hang out with my girlfriend who's nursing a sore knee. So I'm literally just gonna kick it. You know, probably gonna order some food, relax.
You guys are the best, man. Thank you so much for
love
doing
you
the podcast.
too.
Much love to you. My mind is blown.
Thank you too. Are you gonna be down in New Orleans at all?
Yes, first week.
You going down to New Orleans?
Yeah, I'm headed down. I'm playing.
I hope to give you a hug.
Yeah, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'm playing in New Orleans.
Cool.
Okay. Hope to see you. Give you a hug and love you so much. Love to your family, safety and protection, prosperity.
Bless you. Same to you, man.
Absolutely.
I love you guys.
Love you too, man.
Happy
Always.
birthday, brother.
Thank you for being on.
Thanks for having me on, man. New album, Unified, June 3rd. Lettuce.
Yeah,
Unified. Man. I love y'all's message too. Y'all always come just like straight down the line with the message. Unified.
Love. Be nice. Be kind. Treat yourself. Have patience with yourself.
Unify. Yeah, unify. Let's get together.
Yeah, get together.
Amen.
All right. Be well.
Catch you next time, guys.
Yeah. Nice meeting you.